quadratic equation. So in solving the quadratic equation, we will proceed to the other two ways on how are we going to solve the quadratic equation. So the first one is the completing the square, and the second one is the solving the quadratic using the quadratic formula. So first, let's proceed to solving quadratic equation by completing the square. So ito yung mga process how are we going to solve the quadratic equation by completing the square. So first is we are going to divide both sides by the equation of the equation by a, then simplify. Then write the equation such as the terms with variable on the left side of the equation and the constant term is on the right side. So ibig sabihin, if there is if a or real number a is greater than 1, then we are going to divide both sides by a. Then next is kailangan yung constant term natin ay nasa right side para makapag-proceed tayo sa ating completing the square. And then add the square of the half of the coefficient of x or the linear term on both sides by resulting both side of the resulting equation. Then the left side of the equation becomes a perfect square trinomial. So mamaya ipapakita ko sa inyo yon. Then next is to express the perfect square trinomial as a square of binomial. If you remember, a perfect square trinomial can become a square of binomial and vice versa. The next is we are going to solve the resulting quadratic equation by extracting the square root, and then we are going to solve the resulting linear equation para makuha natin yung value ng x. And then what are we going to do sa value ng x na nakuha natin is to check the solution obtained against the original equation. So to further understand, I have here an example. So we are going to find the solution of the equation x squared plus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. So what are we going to use is the completing the square. If you can see, there is a coefficient of 1 which is not greater than 1, then we don't need to divide both sides by a. Then what are we going to do is kailangan daw nating ilipat yung constant natin sa other side. So para malipat natin yung constant, we are going to transpose negative 5 to the other side, then it becomes positive 5. So magiging ganito siya. X squared plus 4x is equal to 5. Then after that, we are going to complete the square. So i-complete natin yung square dito para maging perfect square trinomial. Pag sinabi kasi nating trinomial, ibig sabihin dapat tatlong term siya. 1, 2, tapos meron pa dito. So magdadagdag tayo dyan. Yung idadagdag natin is the squared of the half of the coefficient of x. Then i-add natin siya sa both sides. So dito natin siya i-add. So kung ano yung makukuha natin dito, if negative ang squared ng ating half of the coefficient, then negative, but that's impossible because we are going to square it. So when you square a negative number, then it becomes positive. So here, to complete the square on the left side, what are we going to do is to square the half of the coefficient. So yung coefficient ng ating linear term ay 4. So therefore, iha-half natin to. So ang half nito, so 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2, then i-square natin. So, para mas maliwanagan tayo. Ayan. So, what are we going to do with our coefficient? Yung coefficient lang. So, 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2. So, mangyayari ay x squared plus 4x So do not include that. So para di na lang kayo malito, divide muna natin yung coefficient sa 2, so which is 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2. Then sabi, we need to square kailangan i-square natin siya. So, ang square ng 2 natin ay 4. So, ang sabi, we are going to add the square of the half of the coefficient of linear to both sides. So, ang mangyayari, eto i-add natin siya both sides. So, ang mangyayari sa ating equation ay x squared plus 4x dahil i-add nga natin. So, nanggaling itong 4 dito. Then, equal natin sa 5 dahil sa equation natin ay 5. Then, nag-plus 4 din tayo dahil dito. Kasi nga, if you can see sa ating rule, you need to add the yung nakuha nating sagot dun sa square of the half of the coefficient of x, both side. So, pareha dapat siya i-add. Hindi siya pwedeng dito lang, tapos dito wala. Hindi naman siya pwedeng dito lang din, then dito wala. So, dapat both side. So, after that, we're going to simplify. So, what are we going to do? So, x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to 9. So, na-simplify na natin. Then, after that, we are going to write the left-hand side or the left side or the trinomial na maging square of binomial. So, paano ba natin, o ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng square of binomial? Pag sinabi kasi nating square of binomial, pareha yung factors niya. So, katulad nito, when we factor this x squared plus 4x plus 9, so since this is a perfect square, trinomial, so when we factor the 4, na dapat ang magiging sagot pag pinag-add ay positive 4, that is 2. Kasi 2 times 2 is 4 and 2 plus 2 is 4. So, both positive. So, sa factoring pa lang po ito. Then, next is to get the factor of our quadratic, which is x times x. So, if you can see the factor, pareha siya. Pareha ng variable, pareha ng constant, and pareha ng sign. So, this is what we call perfect square binomial. So, dahil pareha lang naman siya, pwede natin siyang pag-isahin, then lalagyan lang natin ng square. So, kaya siya naging x plus 2 square. So, this is what we call the perfect square binomial. Then, copy lang natin yung 9. So, pag perfect square trinomial na siya, perfect or it is a square of binomial na, and then na-simplify na rin natin ito. So, we are going to get the square root of both sides para ma-eliminate natin itong square. So, we need to square root both sides. So, pag ini-square root natin ang isang constant natin, the answer will become positive and negative. So, ang mangyayari ay na-square na natin siya, so we can cancel the square and the radical sign. So, ang remaining natin ay x plus 2. Then, the square root of 9 is 3. So, therefore, it is equal to positive and negative 3. And then, how are we going to solve the value of x? So, ipakita ko sa inyo kung paano. So, dito tayo. So, if you can see, positive, negative 3 yan. So, ibig sabihin, x plus 2 is equal to, so isang positive 3. Then yung isa naman ay x plus 2, then equal siya sa negative 3. So para makuha natin yung value ng x, we are going to transpose this to the other side, yung positive 2 natin, para makuha natin yung value ng x. So therefore, x is equal to 3. And then, pag tinranspose natin yung positive 2, magiging negative 2. Then, x is equal to, so 3 minus 2 is equal to positive 1. So, eto na yung isa nating solution or the root. So, how about the other one? So, x is equal to negative 3. Then, pag tinranspose natin yung positive 2, magiging negative 2. So, x is equal to So what are we going to do is to simplify. So negative 3 minus 2, pagpareha ng sign, copy the sign. So it is negative, then add the number. So 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. So the answer is negative 5. So therefore, the solution is negative 5 and positive 1. So how are we going to check this? So to check, so if x is negative 5, sa-substitute lang natin siya sa original equation natin. So ang mangyayari ay x squared plus 4x minus 5. So papalitan lang natin yung x ng negative 5. So kaya naging negative 5 squared plus 4 times negative 5 minus 5 is equal to 0. Then negative 5 squared is equal to positive 25, and positive 4 times negative 5 is equal to negative 20 minus 5 is equal to 0. And then simplify natin ito. So negative 25 minus 20 is equal to 5. Then 5 minus 5 is equal to 0. So therefore, the value of x, which is negative 5, is true and correct. How about this if our x is positive 1? So, substitute lang natin yung 1 sa x. So, 1 squared plus 4 times 1 minus 5 is equal to 0. So, 1 squared is equal to 1. Then, 4 o positive 4 times 1 is equal to 4. Then, minus 5 is equal to 0. So, 1 plus 4 is equal to 5. Then, 5 minus 5 is equal to 0. Therefore, it is also correct. So, ayan po yung ating paggamit ng completing the square. So, next is, how are we going to use or how are we going to solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. So, in quadratic formula, or in solving quadratic equation, we can use quadratic formula. So in quadratic formula, can be used to solve all types of quadratic equation. To use the quadratic formula, the equation should be in general form or in standard form. Dahil ang formula natin ay kailangan ng real numbers A, B, and C. So dapat naka-general or standard form ang ating equation. So, para mas maintindihan natin, so let's have an example. So, what are we going to do is to find the solution of the equation x squared plus 8x plus 12 is equal to 0. So, if ang ating equation ay hindi naka-standard or general form, then we need to make the equation in general form. But in our equation here, in our example, naka-standard form siya. Therefore, no need to galawin siya or rearrange. So, next step natin is to find the real numbers ng A, B, and C natin. So, yung A natin ay 1. So, yung B natin ay positive 8 dahil dito. And then, yung C natin is positive 12 dahil dito. Since we have now the real numbers A, B, and C, we can proceed or we can substitute the values in our quadratic formula. So, the quadratic formula is x is equal to negative B plus minus or positive and negative of square root ng ating B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. So, sa-substitute lang natin dyan. So, first to substitute is yung B natin. So, ang gagawin natin is, ano ba yung B natin? Positive 8. Pero, dahil sa equation natin may negative, kaya ang substitution natin ay negative 8. Then, plus, minus square root of, what is B? So, 8. So, dahil squared ang nasa equation natin, 8 squared. Then, minus natin sa 4 times, yung A natin ay 1. Kaya, 1 po dito. Then, yung C po natin ay 12. Kaya po, 12 yung nandito. So, it is negative 4 times 1 times 12. And then, over natin sa 2A. So 2 times, ano yung value ng A is 1. So, kaya 2 times 1. And then, simplify natin. So, ang simplify muna natin is itong naka-parenthesis. So, x squared, 8 squared is equal to 64. And then, negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. And negative 4 times 12 is equal to negative 48. So, kaya minus 48. And then, 2 times 1 is equal to 2. Then, next naman natin is to simplify the radical. So, 64 minus 48 is equal to 16. So, dahil wala na tayong isi-simplify dito sa denominator, so copy na lang natin. So, next naman is to simplify the square root, or what is the square root of 16. So, the square root of 16 is 4. So, therefore, it is positive negative 4. So, ngayon, dahil positive, negative to, dalawa na yung x natin. So, una ay x is equal to negative 8. So, plus muna tayo, plus 4 over or divided by 2. At yung isa nating x is negative naman. So, x is equal to negative 8 minus 4 over positive 2. So, ngayon, to get the value of x, we need to simplify it. So, x is equal to, so, negative 8 plus 4 is equal to negative 4 over 2. Then, negative 4 over 2, it is equal to, so, x is equal to negative 2. So, ito yung isang value ng x natin. So, the next value of x ay ito naman. So, x is equal to, so, negative 8 minus 4. So, since parehang negative, copy the sign, then add the number. So, it is 12. Dahil 8 plus 4 is 12, but it is negative 12. Then, over 2. Then, x is equal to, so, negative 12 over 2 is negative 6. So, ayan po. Kaya, nakuha natin ito. And then, to check, so para i-check natin, no? Para i-check natin yung value ng x natin kung tama, we need to substitute it to our equation. So first, if x is equal to negative 6, no, papalitan lang natin yung x natin ng negative 6. So magiging negative 6 squared plus 8 times negative 6 plus 12 is equal to 0. Then 36, dahil negative 6 squared is equal to 36, and then positive 8 times negative 6 is equal to negative 48 plus 12, then simplify natin. Negative 36 minus 48 is equal to negative 12, and negative 12 plus 12 is equal to 0. Therefore, the value of x, which is negative 6, is correct. So next is if x is equal to negative 2. So, palitan lang ulit natin yung x natin ng negative 2. So, magiging negative 2 squared plus 8 times negative 2 plus 12 is equal to 0. So, negative 2 squared is equal to positive 4. And then, negative 8 times negative 2, it becomes negative 16. And then, plus 12 is equal to 0. So, simplify natin. 4 minus 16 is equal to negative 12. And negative 12 plus 12 is equal to 0. Therefore, the solution is correct. So, mas madaling gamitin yung ating quadratic formula dahil you are going to remember the formula and substitute the real numbers a, b, and c. Therefore, you need to know how are you going to find the real, or how are you going to identify the real numbers a, b, and c. So, thank you for listening and for watching. I hope you learned how to solve quadratic equation using completing the square and using the quadratic formula.